Hello, and welcome to another episode of the It's the Pictures podcast. This is episode number 221. I'm your host, Evan Green, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Max Koval. Hey, Max.
How you doing, Evan?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm doing pretty well. Can't complain. Can't complain. Evan, recently on the newsletter, I did an article on the new 4K Speed Racer, and I hadn't seen that movie for ages. It was just a lot of fun revisiting it.
Nice. I don't think I've ever seen that one, but I know it has a cult
Yeah, I'd say
hit
that.
status, and people really do love it and think that when it got panned when it came out, that was like total BS.
I think people just expected more Matrix, and it's definitely not that.
Yeah, although, as someone who watched Speed Racer some as a kid, I don't think I would have gone into that thinking I want the Matrix. I would have thought I want Speed Racer and something flashy and fun and deserving of, an adaptation.
No, it's certainly fun like that. But we have a great actor today that we're going to be talking about who, all of a sudden just, I'd say almost came out of nowhere well, what was it, like, within the last 20 years, I guess, whenever Game of Thrones aired.
Yeah,
And,
2014, I think, somewhere in
yeah,
there.
and, he's like in the zeitgeist. Like, if you think of a major project, our actor, Pedro Pascal, is there.
hmm Yeah, it's true. He's just like he was toiling away in relative obscurity for a while, a lot of bit roles in movies and TV. And like even stuff I swear I'd seen and it was like I didn't know he was in that. Like he didn't really he wasn't, it didn't stand out, wasn't noticeable to me. And now I feel like he's everywhere. Everyone talks about him. He's the bee's knees
Yes.
and the cat's pajamas, as they used to say. And yeah, so he's definitely deserving of conversation, especially in light of the fact that Star Wars Mandalorian and Grogu just came out, and so we that's why we ended up deciding to talk about Pedro Pascal today. That's our main topic of the episode. But yeah, before we get to Pedro Pascal, should we talk about the news?
Yeah, let's jump right into it.
Yeah, okay. So the big thing is, we've got the list of the Cannes Film Festival award winners. The big one that came out on top was Christian Mungiu's. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Fjord, which I know I'm definitely saying correctly, starring Sebastian Stan and
Yes.
Renata Rensby. And yeah, that won the Palme d'Or at this festival. And apparently, this director, this Romanian director, has won the Palme d'Or before. He's the 10th director to win this twice. So that's another big deal about this win.
Yeah, this one is it seems like every Cannes Film Festival winner of recent years has been distributed by Neon, whether or not it's picked up at the festival or even beforehand. Then they have their hands in getting the Palme d'Or winners. But yeah, I don't know much about Christian Mungiu as a director. I guess his last film that won the Palme d'Or was like the maybe it's like an abortion drama, I think it is. It's like 4 months,
Mm,
3 weeks, and 2 days.
yep, that's the name
And
of it.
that one has never really made me want to jump up and down and see it.
Mm,
So I don't know if that is necessarily a great film or not. Maybe it is. Not my bag. They said that this year's Cannes was very. I guess there weren't a lot of American films. I
mm.
guess the lone entry was kind of like Paper Tiger was the James Gray movie.
Yeah.
That came in like right at the wire and was added to the competition.
Yeah. Let's see some of the other ones that won some awards. We've got oh my God, I'm gonna just struggle to pronounce this guy's name too. Russian director Andrei Zvyaguntsev. His film Minotaur won the grand prize, and apparently he used his acceptance speech to call out Putin. So good for him. That's brave, certainly, to do. And yeah, I also I feel like I'm not as familiar with some of these films from this year. So let's see
Yeah,
some of the other ones.
yeah. Some of the directors who I was familiar with, their films didn't really do well with the jury. Like Pedro Almodovar had a new film. Hizukazu Koreeda had a new film. Both of those were in competition, and they
Hmm
just didn't excite the critics, I guess, as much so, or the jury in that case.
Yeah. Were there any that you're particularly looking forward to that scooped up awards?
No, I mean, like, I generally have an interest in most of the ones that are mentioned among like the best actor, best actress, best director,
Hmm.
Palme d'Or. And it's funny, Evan. We talk about like the neon package at the end of the year. That's almost becoming like your canned ketchup package because of
Yeah.
they license or distribute most of the films from the festival here in the States. So
Hmm. Yeah, I always look forward to that. And I'm sure I've said it a million times on the show. They always put together a very nice box set, so it's always nice to get that at the end of the year.
right, and like last year's, like they ended up bringing here. I think they had no other choice. Was the Park Chan Wook? They had it was just an accident, sentimental
Yep.
value. So it's like a lot of the big Cannes Film Festival winners were distributed by Neon.
Hmm. Yeah, they're smart, the ones they pick up. Maybe the smartest studio out there right now, I guess.
But yeah, all in all, I hope people enjoyed Cannes. I guess you and I won't see many of these films for a while.
No.
But I saw that the Jane Schoenbaum film Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma
Hmm.
played out of competition, and I noticed that like this summer it's going to have some early screenings before its I guess limited release in August, and one of those is like in Boston. It's
Cool.
like yeah, it's going to be like one of those outside woods double features. Yeah, I thought that was pretty neat.
Yeah, that sounds like a great venue. I know some of the local theaters like to play some of their movies like out in the middle of the woods, especially when they're showing like rep screenings of like Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2 and stuff like that. I think that's a fun idea. And like turn it into a whole thing where you can like camp out and watch the movie. That's a really cool thing that they do. Should we hop over to the next item on our news list
Sure.
about Matt Damon? So apparently Matt Damon is going to be working with the Daniels on their new project. The Daniels, of course, of Everything Everywhere All at Once and Swiss Army Man. And I guess Ryan Gosling had been circling the role for this project, but couldn't do it, due to scheduling. And I guess Matt Damon's coming off a busy year between the Rip and the Odyssey, and so I guess he was checking this project out and decided he wanted to do it. And I guess he'll be shooting it after he's done promoting the Odyssey in July. So that's definitely interesting. I don't think I know anything about the plot of this latest movie that the Daniels are working on, but Matt Damon's certainly high profile snag for them. What do you think,
No,
Max?
yeah, I think like certainly after the critical, I guess for the size of the movie, commercial success of Everything Everywhere All at Once, Daniels earned a little bit of respect about like let's look forward to their next project. I mean, Swiss Army Man is so odd. I like that movie,
Yeah,
but it's a very strange movie.
it is. It is a weird movie, and it's one I didn't think that I would enjoy, but I really did. I've liked their movies so far. I'm a big fan, and also proud supporter as they're both Emerson alumni like myself. So I'm happy to be in their corner.
Yeah, I love like I think after they won the Oscars, I showed my wife Shannon that the turn down for what music video. I'm like these guys directed this music video and then won an Oscar. And it's just like I mean the pathway from music video to director is long, but I just thought that particular music video is a very much a calling card for their style.
I haven't seen it. Now I feel like I need to look it up
Yeah,
after we
you
finish.
totally check it out. And yeah, and I also thought it was funny because like that Matt Damon would take over a role that like Ryan Gosling had to vacate because both of those actors appeared in like Andy Weir novel adaptations, The Martian
Hmm.
and Project Hail Mary. I was
Right.
just like,
Yeah.
are they interchangeable actors? I don't know about that, but
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think they're interchangeable, but I feel like they're on a similar wavelength, maybe. All right. Any other thoughts on this, or should we move on to our
we can
last
move
news
on.
item? Okay. So I think the last item on our list here is the kind of surprising box office performance for horror movie Obsession. I can't remember if we've talked about it on the show before, but it's a new release horror movie. It's one of those like be careful what you wish for kind of horror movies where I think this guy like wants this girl to fall for him and he gets some type of like spell or something on her and it's definitely he bites off a lot more than he can chew. But this was one that I believe Blumhouse acquired for I think $15 million, and in opening weekend it made 17 million, so immediately was profitable. And then since then it's racked up I think almost $60 million in the box office, which is pretty impressive for small horror movie like this. It's like I think it goes to show the really smart moves that Blumhouse has made over the years to kind of like grab these low budget horror movies and then distribute them and just rake in dough.
Yeah, no, I mean that's really how Blumhouse has been successful over the years. I mean, certainly they've taken big swings on expensive properties too, and
Hmm.
haven't really turned out. But when your wins are as big as this, then it's pretty good. It's funny. It says here, I'm looking it up, that this was a film that premiered at TIFF last September during the Midnight Madness section, and
Hmm.
even then, I didn't think like I heard like too much like buzz about it.
Hmm.
They found it and they made something great out of it.
Yeah, for sure. I think I saw, by the way, I was wrong. So it's 73 million that it's made worldwide, and then like it's made 52 here domestically. But yeah, I saw a trailer for this back when I went to go see the new Scream movie, and I thought this seemed really interesting. So I
Yeah.
definitely want to see this. I don't know if I'll make it to see it in theaters, but it's looked good to me.
Yeah, it said like after its TIFF premiere. Okay, it says here it was the highest price commanded by a genre film in TIFF history. So I guess it was pretty big. Yeah, Rotten Tomatoes has it like at a 95%. Has a great word of mouth. So
Hmm. Yeah, definitely heard good things word of mouth from people. One of the former coworker of mine actually is a director directing like horror shorts primarily, was giving it high praise recently, so that caught my attention.
cool. That's Obsession. I think it's still in theaters as of this recording, and
Hmm.
there were some days during the week, Evan, that I saw that it was number one on a weekday at the box office. And like people are like that's substantial because like the competition out there is like Mortal Kombat and Devil
Hmm.
Wears Prada 2 and still Michael, which is chugging along.
Yeah,
So it was pretty impressive.
absolutely. All right, so before we dig into Pedro Pascal, should we check in on our box office game?
We should, speaking of the Devil Wears Prada.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's see. So as of today, we're recording this on May 24th, here's our standings. So Mandalorian Grogu has come out as since our last recording, and currently that has earned around $82 million, just a little bit shy of that at the domestic box office. And Devil Wears Prada is up to 196. So on my side of things, I'm up to 277, million,
Yeah,
almost
two
278.
78. Yeah.
Yeah, round it up. And Max, since you just had Mortal Kombat come out, you're at 72 million, but I imagine these numbers are going to change drastically with some big movies coming. Toy Story 5 should be coming out in the next couple weeks. We got Moana, The Odyssey, Spider-Man Brand New Day. So I imagine your numbers will tick up significantly quite soon.
Yeah, well, we're recording this on Sunday night of the Memorial Day weekend, so I'm sure even the Monday is going to have, a bigger box office than typical for Monday, right? Because people are still on break. Certainly up here in New England, it's going to be a washout Memorial Day. So,
Yeah, it's rainy and crappy out there as it was today. But yeah, I mean, I saw they're projecting Mandalorian Grogu to make 102 million over the course of the weekend. We'll see if that actually comes to fruition. But yeah, could be the weather gets people to go to the movies. I was reading earlier that apparently this is a low opening for a Star Wars film, the Mandalorian Grogu, but also I've heard that the movie was produced on a much more modest budget by comparison to other Star Wars movies. I think this was made for 165 million, I was reading, which is, I guess, on the low side for a Star Wars movie.
yeah. No, I mean, certainly we can. I think there's still time for us to come to like what's going to ultimately be the discussion of Mandalorian and Grogu at the box office. Like
Hmm.
I thought like maybe that would be part of our conversation tonight, but like I said, I think there's been some reports like it's not like it's certainly not like a death knell for Star Wars at the box office, but like it's also not like the A tier like you're releasing a new Star Wars movie you should own this summer type deal.
Yeah, for sure. It's not part of the kind of like central, core story that people have been following. So that, and it's based on a TV property. So I definitely think those are some hits against it in terms of like turnout. I didn't get a chance to read it, but I saw a piece earlier that apparently younger generations right now
Yeah, I
are
saw that.
less inclined to get into Star Wars. I didn't get a chance to dig into the reasoning behind it, but apparently it's not really resonating with people younger generations as much. And I'm sure some of that has to do with maybe some of the marketing to them is not reaching them is not effective. But
Yeah,
it's something to
yeah,
think about.
yeah. I don't know. It's like we saw the knee jerk reaction that the Rise of Skywalker was to the Star Wars franchise after
Hmm.
the Last Jedi's very vocal online fans. I don't know if under Kathleen Kennedy eventually they just had to decide like, oh, do we want to like cater to like our long standing fans and make things that they want to see and enjoy, or are
Hmm.
we going to like do something new and different? And I guess I'm more interested to see what the Ryan Gosling Starfighter movie will be next summer. And certainly the hope with that, I imagine, is to bring in younger audiences to the Star Wars franchise. That's what I'd
Hmm.
imagine, anyways. When you're hiring a director like I think it's like Sean Levy who did like I don't know he almost does like these quick and fast movies, but like they get people in seats.
Hmm. Yep. Well, we'll continue to see how things unfold, but I guess it's probably good for us to jump into our discussion on Pedro Pascal. Cool. All right. Well, yeah. So as we alluded to earlier in the episode, we're talking about Pedro Pascal, but as we mentioned, he was kind of toiling away in, I would say, relative obscurity for a while. He's originally from Chile. His parents fled the dictator Pinochet, and they ended up finding their way to the U.S. So, like, he spent a lot of his younger years in California and Texas, and yeah, he had a lot of bit parts in TV. Like, I know one of his earlier roles people remember was like Law and Order. I know a lot of people come up in the acting world through Law and Order. That's like a common place that people kind of get their start or get their feet wet. But I mean, like you look at his like career, and you're like, okay, he was in an episode of Buffy, NYPD Blue, like Law and Order, like Nurse Jackie, Good Wife. Like these are well watched shows, and it's like things I saw him in, but didn't really know him until I saw him in Game of Thrones. I feel like that was the first time I really noticed him. Was that the same for you, Max, or did you come to Pedro Pascal through something else?
No, I think that was pretty much the first time as well. I was really excited about Game of Thrones. I don't necessarily know why.
Hmm.
Maybe the whole fantasy of it, or like I remember that I made a point to read the first Game of Thrones novel, and like that was probably at a time when I was like not as much into reading as I am now.
Mm,
Like I wasn't really like let me pick up a novel and read it.
yeah.
And I picked that one up and I read it and really enjoyed it and started reading the second book. So I was in on Game of Thrones. Like that was a show that I really wanted to watch and enjoyed it from week to week. And even though he doesn't have like the biggest role in Game of Thrones, spoilers maybe, he certainly
Hmm.
makes a big impression with his screen time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that standout. He's extremely like handsome. He's very charming. He has a very like memorable screen presence. Very memorable character, even though he's not in a ton of episodes of the show. And yeah, I just feel like okay, when I remember seeing like this guy's got something here. People, he's got a magnetism here that I think people are noticing, and they're probably going to take more notice of. But even after that, it seemed like things were starting to heat up for him, but not really like taking off substantially. he was, dabbling around in more, bit parts in like movies and TV. Like I know he was in Narcos. Did you ever watch that one, Max? Yeah, me neither. I didn't get to that. And we were just talking earlier, like he's in If Beale Street Could Talk, and it was like, did not remember him in that. Didn't remember him in some other stuff. But I feel like what really, it was like he was in Wonder Woman 1984, and that was like a big deal for him, playing the.
I think he's like the best part of that movie. I don't think very highly of that movie at all, but like I still like him in it.
Yeah, that movie is incredibly flawed on a lot of levels, but I mainly think its writing is just horrendous, and I think this story is like really unfocused. And while he plays like a villain in the film, I feel like he's not a very compelling villain, and it's not really his fault. I remember watching it thinking like, I think he's good in it, but he's just like he doesn't have much to work with here. And I found that like super disappointing in watching it. It's like, man, he's
I mean,
really just like,
how many of us probably watched that one at home too, though? When the movie was supposed to be like a major like
yeah.
sequel to Wonder Woman, and be that one was such a weird project, right? Because we could probably talk about like what went wrong with Wonder Woman 84 for like an
hmm
hour.
Yeah. I think we can both agree though that the problem was definitely not Pedro Pascal.
Right.
So it's like, yeah. But I mean like everybody really knows him from The Mandalorian, the TV show. I mean, I feel like that like really put him on the map in a major way. It's like,
Which is funny, Evan, because like for a lot of Mandalorian, he doesn't show his face, right? I mean, that's the whole
right.
idea.
Yeah, no, and I mean, I recently I didn't realize this. Apparently, he's not even the actor in the suit the majority of the time. Like he is only on screen when his character is not wearing a helmet.
Yeah.
So like there's other people portraying Mando. Like apparently Brendan Wayne, who is John Wayne's grandson, does a lot of the portraying Mando with the helmet on. So I thought that was really fascinating. But yeah, he's voice acting and he has to do so much with his voice. And he does have a really interesting, memorable voice too that works incredibly well for the character. So yeah, it's like in that he has to be he's very like stoic. And I started rewatching The Mandalorian after seeing the movie, and yeah, he comes from like a background of like trauma, and he's part of this like very like rigid group, this like society that has like very like rigid rules and guidelines that they live by. And so, yeah, it's just like it's really fun performance from him. It doesn't hurt that you have, he is like the best sidekick ever, right?
Sure.
He's got Baby Yoda to play off of. And so, yeah, I think that was really where his career really took off, is with The Mandalorian, because everyone's like, okay, who is this guy? He's like handsome, he's charming, he's doing this like role that's like very serious but also could be like funny. Let's see more of this guy. And that's when I feel like after that he really started showing up everywhere.
Yeah, it's hard to like watch TV a few years ago and not see him, right? Because it was just like it was either Mandalorian or it was the hit adaptation of The Last of Us on HBO.
Yeah.
He was just like everywhere. It's funny how similar Last of Us is to Mandalorian, right?
Mhm.
On its fabric, he has to be this like parental figure who is guiding someone who needs his help through difficult landscape.
Yeah, I was thinking about that before we sat down and recorded the similarities between the roles and the kind of like themes. It's like he plays this parental figure, like you said, this protector kind of role, and he does that incredibly well. But I think he infuses it with a lot of humanity and like the fact that he's not perfect about it and he struggles, and it feels very lived in and real in both of those roles. And I think that's a lot of like testament to him and what a strong performer he can be.
Yeah, no, I mean, like you could have a number of different actors who could have portrayed Joel in Last of Us, and
Hmm
I have a very significant history with the game. I've played it a number of times, so like I don't know if I necessarily thought he was that character right away, but yeah, you say like he brings some nuance to it as opposed to just being like a guy who doesn't give a shit about anything.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I'm currently replaying the first Last of Us. My daughter woke up from her nap literally the moment I was about to kick in the door at the hospital for the like really memorable scene at the end of that game. And yeah, I think Joel is a very kind of like stoic figure. He is, crotchety. He's withdrawn. He's very like closed off kind of character. And I feel like Pedro Pascal, like you said, he brings a lot more nuance and texture to that role in the TV show. And so I feel like it's a really excellent portrayal of the character. And it's just, he's so good in it. And I really loved the first season so much of Last of Us. And I found myself so disappointed by the second season of it. It's like, oh my God. But I still have such a positive association when I think of the show and think of, because I feel like when I heard he got cast, I was like, perfect. I was like, he's gonna nail it. I had no doubts in my mind that he was gonna be able to do it, and he did. I think he absolutely nailed it.
Yeah, I think like without getting too much into The Last of Us either, that like I have a similar reaction to you where like I watched the first season all the way through, I really enjoyed it, and I still like playing the game, and I don't know that I dislike the second game or second season for the reasons that a lot of people dislike it.
Hmm.
Yeah, if you've played it, if you've seen a lot of the bullying online or what have you, you could certainly draw tea leaves into why people didn't love The Last of Us Part 2 and for some reasons.
Hmm.
For myself, I guess like I don't know. I guess maybe it's the messaging. A lot of The Last of Us Part 2 wants people to feel bad about everything that's going on in the world. And when you're playing a video game, you kind of want to feel like you have a lot of power or feel like it's almost like a god complex, right? Like
Hmm.
feeling like you have control, and the narrative of that game just makes you feel pretty awful about everything that you do. And I remember thinking like, oh yeah, season 2 of the show is coming out. I don't need to experience that again.
Yeah, I think not to dwell too much on Last of Us, but yeah, I think the second game really delves into a lot more murky, complex moral territory than the first one even does, and I respect that about it. I actually really like that. That it gets you thinking about, Ellie as a character and how she ultimately, I think, becomes the villain of the story instead of the hero. And I know a lot of people struggle with that. But also, I think the show just flubbed by making very stupid narrative choices and what they decided to like keep or jettison from the game that I think would have added a lot of texture and color to the team.
Yeah, and I guess Pedro Pascal isn't too much in season 2. So
No, I mean, like, if you know the story of the game, you know that he's not around much. But he is good in the parts that he's in. I noticed on our list of things to discuss Pedro Pascal roles, we have Fantastic Four. I haven't seen Fantastic Four, but I'm assuming you have, Max?
yeah, the Fantastic Four First Steps. It's one of the more recent MCU movies leading up to Avengers Doomsday.
Hmm.
And it really sets up the Fantastic Four, the first Marvel family, if you will, under the Marvel umbrella. After for years and years and years, it was under the Fox umbrella, and they've tried many times to make a good Fantastic Four movie. I can't tell you whether or not like this is a good Fantastic Four movie compared to those other ones. I can't even tell you if it's a good Fantastic Four movie compared to The Incredibles, because like The Incredibles kind of like took what the Fantastic Four is and made it like really really good.
Right. Yeah.
But Fantastic Four First Steps is a pretty good movie. It's a play on words in a lot of ways because the plot of the movie kind of assumes that you already know who the Fantastic Four is. They don't spend a lot of time
Hmm.
really establishing these characters,
I think that's fine. I think
yeah,
some of the other movies have done origin stories, and like that last one with Miles Teller, Michael B. Jordan, Kate Mara. Oh my God, it was bad. It was
yeah.
horrendous. It was so bad. I was gonna say like no matter what, it has to be. This one has to be better than that one because the other one was just so bad you have nowhere to go but up.
Yeah, so this one instead like has Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards, and he's married to Miss Invisible, played by Vanessa Kirby, and right away they're expecting their child together,
Hmm.
and a lot of the movie is about that child and how special it will be. And you have some other, not, I wouldn't say up and coming, because they've been around for a while, but people from TV, right? Because you have
Right.
Joseph Quinn, who's Stranger Things and A
Hmm.
Quiet Place. He plays Johnny Storm now, and his
Eben
full name,
Moss.
yeah, Eben
Eben Moss
Moss.
Backrack.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he plays the Thing. No, it's a fine movie. If you ask me like which one of the more recent ones I like better, I think that the other one, the New Avengers or whatever it's
The
called.
Thunderbolts.
Yeah,
I
Thunderbolts.
loved I loved that one.
I,
I've had a really good time with it.
I think that is a better movie than Fantastic Four.
Okay.
But yeah, I think like for a long time, the audiences or people online wanted like Joseph Krasinski as the like Reed Richards, and they kind of made a joke of that and like Doctor Strange, I think, because like
But John Krasinski, yeah,
yeah,
they had him play an alternate
Reed
universe
Richards,
version of Ray
yeah,
Richards. Yeah, that was fun. That
yeah.
was fun seeing him play that character.
I don't know, like no, I'll say that for another time. I was like, I don't know, like how people are gonna remember all this stuff for Avengers Doomsday, or if they'll care. And this is so.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that was like a lot of the promotion. It's like, look how many people we got to be in this movie. We
Yeah,
somehow aligned all of these people's schedules together. I mean, I know Avengers Doomsday is one of those. What's next for Pedro Pascal? But I also noticed you had a bit about the Super Bowl halftime show appearance in here. I assume we wanted to chat about that before we move on to kind of like what's upcoming for Pedro Pascal.
yeah. So I don't know. Like I read like interviews that he gave after he appeared on Bad Bunny's Super Bowl halftime appearance. I don't know if you saw the halftime show or not, but like,
I didn't this year. I was so bad.
yeah,
Watch any of the Super Bowl stuff.
but like apparently like he must be familiar or must know Bad Bunny, and he was like, I just want to be a part of whatever he's got going on. I want to be there. And they didn't really like tell him what he was going to be doing.
Hmm.
And they're just like, okay, you're on. And then she's like, what? And they like shove him out there like on the stage, and like that, like, since you didn't see it, like there's different sets that Bad Bunny had for his songs, and like I guess
Hmm.
one of the bigger sets is he had like a house in the background, and like just like a bunch of different famous celebrities, and you just like, I'm like, wait, that's Pedro Pascal. It's like so out of
Hmm.
place, but yeah, it's just like another place where you're like, you can't escape him. He's and I loved him talking about it afterwards, and he's like, oh, it was like awesome to be a part of it, but he was like, I had no idea that I was going out there like be from millions.
That's nerve-wracking for sure. Just be like, oh, here you go on stage now and go do something.
Yeah,
Oof, a lot of pressure.
and
But
then
yeah,
and then his more recent project, right? You're saying you saw Mandalorian Grogu. Did you want to talk about it here, or do you want to save it, or?
yeah. I mean, I'm happy to talk about it. I mean, I loved it. I had a blast watching it. I feel like there's not really much you need to know in terms of like backstory from the TV show. It kind of feels like it's mostly its own self-contained kind of adventure. It's very action-packed, like wall-to-wall action, like throughout the entire movie. And like the whole opening act is just like plays like gangbusters with like just huge action set pieces and yeah, it's fun. I mean, Pedro Pascal at some point is not wearing his helmet, so you do see him embodying the role of Mando. And yeah, it's funny. It's interesting. I don't know how much more you want me to say because you're probably gonna see it soon, right? So I don't feel like I want to like.
Some of the criticisms lobbed against it, and I don't know if you necessarily agree or not agree, is that like it feels like stitched together TV episodes. I mean, like
No.
I know like when I saw Moana 2 in theaters, that definitely felt like stitched together TV shows because it was supposed to be a TV show originally.
Yeah. No, I didn't feel that way about it. I definitely felt like it felt like a movie in terms of like scope and storytelling and feeling like there definitely feels like discrete acts in some places. Like the first act of the film feels kind of like something, and then it's like, okay, that transitions into the next thing, but it doesn't feel like disconnected from it in a way that I feel like I'm watching a TV show and it could feel like, all right, this ends and now this is the
Yeah.
next episode.
is there like a universal villain throughout the piece, or is it less about having a
There's a
villain?
couple, yeah, there's a couple of villains, but I would say there's kind of like, yeah, there's a main-ish kind of, it's like two people are like, without without
Sure.
going too much into spoiler territory. Yeah, there's like two people that are kind of like
Now,
co-villains.
I know like Sigourney Weaver is in this, and was she in
She is.
was she in the show or
Yeah, I think she showed up in the TV show. It's been a while since I've seen The Mandalorian. That's hence why I would decide to start rewatching it after seeing the movie because I didn't remember a ton. Even when we sat down to watch the movie, Shauna and I were like, "Shit, what do you remember from this?" We kind of like did our best to cobble together some memories before the movie started in case it was relevant. And thankfully, for the most part, I feel like not a ton of it was like it's super essential. It's
no?
like
I'm
there's
glad
definitely some carryover, but it's not like if you didn't watch the show, you wouldn't be like totally lost, which
I'm
is I think a good thing.
I'm glad you said that because like some of my reservation for approaching Mandalorian season 3 was like this like idea that you had to watch like the Boba Fett like spin-off show to like know like if people don't know it's like there's a time where like Grogu leaves Mandalorian and like goes to train with like Luke Skywalker.
Hmm.
And then like season 3 of Mandalorian picks up and like Grogu's back, and it's just like, wait, how did that happen? I thought he left. I felt like there was homework to do, and I just really didn't want to do homework.
Yeah, there is kind of a shadow Mandalorian episode inside the Book of Boba Fett TV show, but I watched it anyway because Boba Fett is my favorite Star Wars character, so of course I was gonna watch the Book of Boba Fett, and yeah, and Mando season 3 was I thought was really excellent, and they had some killer guest stars in some of the episodes. Like people like friggin' Jack Black and Lizzo and Christopher Lloyd were some of the people in the episodes. It's like so good, so action packed. Also having what's his name, Juan Carlo Esposito playing the like main antagonists that they're squaring off against. That doesn't hurt either.
Yeah,
But yeah,
it's
the movie is good. It's fun. It was such a fun ride. I sat there fairly early in the movie thinking, this is why I come to the movies. Like this is the kind of fun escapism that I long for when I go to see a movie, and it absolutely delivered on that front. And it to me felt in more of the same vein of Last Jedi than Rise of Skywalker in terms of like my enjoyment of the movie and not feeling like it was overly fan servicey. I mean, like there were some huge nerds sitting behind us that seemed to like clap and cheer at stuff that even I was like, I don't even know what you're cheering for. But to me, it felt more obscure and not like it was overt fan service. But what do I know? Maybe I'm just not a big enough nerd these days into Star Wars.
sure. That's good to hear. You certainly made me want to see it more than I did maybe about 20 minutes ago. So,
Yeah, that's good.
because like to tell you the truth, I don't think I hate anything Star Wars. It's like
Hmm.
I try to think of like the worst Star Wars movie, and I'm like, I'd probably still watch it. It's like,
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna watch it. But yeah, I know. It's like there's varying levels and like some things like work for you or they don't. Like, I watch Andor and I know a lot of people freaking love Andor and I'm like, it's not this kind of self-seriousness doesn't really work for me. I'm like I still watched the first season and I've been meaning to see the second season, but I'm just kind of like I don't get what the fuss is about compared to like other shows and Star Wars movies.
that sounds pretty fun for Mandalorian and Grogu. It's funny, Evan. I know, like you and I talked, like how much money did Disney leave on the table, not calling it like Mandalorian and Baby Yoda. And then I
Uh-huh.
saw someone who was like, "Oh, they should just call this thing Boba Fett and Baby Yoda." And
Yeah. Did you watch Book of Boba Fett? It sounds like you
no,
didn't, Max. Okay, so listeners, please indulge this very brief tangent. One of the episodes of Book of Boba Fett is one of my favorite episodes of Star Wars TV, like period. Because it takes a specific like alien race from the Star Wars movies and adds so much texture and depth to them that I was like completely floored and utterly captivated the entire episode. Like couldn't believe it. Like A+ storytelling. So I know it probably was like, oh, it's fatiguing. I gotta watch some other side show. I there is a really really excellent episode. I can't remember what number it is, but I was like I couldn't believe how good it was.
Yeah, I mean, I sat through the Obi-Wan sequel thing, so
Me too. Yeah, I watched those. I watched Ahsoka. I think of the Star Wars TV shows, I haven't seen Acolyte. That's one that I haven't watched, and I've been kind of dawdling my way through the Star Wars Visions episodes, like
hmm
watching like rando episodes here and there, and I've been enjoying those.
cool. Yeah, well, we should go into what where can we see our good friend Pedro Pascal next, huh?
Yes, yeah. Let's wrap a bow on that conversation before we talk about what we've been watching lately. So yeah, I see here you said he's stepping in for Joaquin Phoenix in a Todd Haynes film, De Noche. I think I'd
Yes.
heard something about that, but I don't really know much about the movie.
Yeah, I think like Joaquin Phoenix had almost like worked on getting the production like almost to the starting line with Todd
Mm,
Haynes, and then he just like dropped off right as they were gonna start production, and like the movie was gonna be lost and everything. And
mm-hmm.
it was a few months later where Pedro Pascal decided to join the project, and I think he's working on it now because I've seen some press footage of Pedro Pascal, and he looks like he's slimmed down quite a bit. Maybe he's changed his body shape for this role a little bit, but
Mm, yeah, I'm just looked this up. The one sentence IMDb summary says follows two men in love who leave Los Angeles for Mexico in the 1930s. I'm like, okay, now I know what kind of movie basically this is.
mm-hmm. So yeah, he picked up that, and then I guess like I like Tony Gilroy as a director, and he of course did Star Wars, right? We're talking about
Andor.
Andor, and I guess like Behemoth is his next theatrical movie, and Pedro Pascal's in that cast.
Hmm.
Um, we the aforementioned Avengers Doomsday. I don't, given how many people are in that movie, including Robert Downey Jr. I don't know how long Pedro Pascal actually appears on the screen, but
Yeah, who knows?
he's supposed to be in there as reprising his role as Reed Richards, and then he'll also be in a new movie called The Brigands of Rattle Creek. It's Park Chan Wook's new movie after No Other Choice. It's very pre-production because it was just bought, I guess, by like a subsidiary of Warner Brothers during the Cannes Film Festival, and it's
Mm,
supposed to be like this western with not only Pedro Pascal but like Austin Butler and Matthew McConaughey attached. So
hmm. Okay. Interesting. Sounds like a good cast.
yeah, and I'm sorry we didn't talk about what's that the other movie that came out from the guy who Eddington. I didn't see Eddington. Did you bother seeing that one?
No, I didn't. I actually Ari Aster is I feel like a very controversial figure in my
Yeah.
mind where I'm like I don't really know whether to trust him after seeing Beau is Afraid. But I definitely was intrigued by the idea and about Pedro Pascal squaring off against Joaquin Phoenix. So I feel like I probably will see it at some point. I just haven't seen that. I haven't seen that movie, The Materialist, and some of the other kind of
Oh
more
yeah, that's
recent
right.
Pedro
The
Pascal
yeah
ones.
the Celine song. I forgot like he was in that one.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean Pedro Pascal is a compelling actor. I'm glad that he's finally received some recognition a little bit later in his career, but I'm glad he's on a hot streak right now, and definitely excited to see him in more things.
Yeah, Evan and I looked up when he appeared in Game of Thrones, and he was 39 years old. So if you're out there wondering if your career is ever going to take off, remember that there's still time.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I think it's like plenty of celebrities didn't get their start until later on. So who knows? All right. So I guess before we switch over to what we've been watching, we'll do some station identification, as you like to call it, Max. So you've been listening to the It's the Pictures podcast, which you can find wherever you get podcasts. You can also go to our website, itsthepictures.com, to link up with us there. We're on social media. We're It's the Pictures or It's the Pic Pod. You can find us on Instagram. We're on Blue Sky and Threads. And I think Max, you're also on Threads as well. We also have this great newsletter that Max puts out. I think you mentioned earlier that you did a piece on Speed Racer, but what are some of the other recent posts you've had on the newsletter?
I did the Speed Racer 4K review. I was talking a little bit about Mother Mary, having seen that in the theaters. I did a review. Love
Mm-hmm.
the new David Lowery movie. I did a report on the health of the newsletter. Now, kind of like 6 months in on moving away from Substack to Ghosts, and
Mm-hmm.
subscribers got a look into behind the scenes of what's going on there. And yeah, some other really fascinating things going on. I think I reviewed this movie like Labyrinth on there for the Kids distributed over Mother's Day weekend. Yeah, more to come. Looking forward to. I got a screener, Evan, and I haven't gotten to watch it because it's a very long movie. But it's the new. I think it's like Norwegian movie called Silent Friend, and it stars Tony Leung, who he's like one of my favorite actors, and as seen in like In the Mood for Love, and more in America, everybody saw him as the villain in Shang-Chi, but I just think
Gotcha.
he's.
Okay. Yeah. I'm like, I know that name, and I'm like, I have a vague picture of him in my head, but now I know exactly who you're talking about.
I think
Cool.
you think he's a terrific actor, and I'm looking forward to
Yeah, he
watching
is.
that.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, so listeners, there's a lot of good stuff going on. If you go to our website, itsthepictures.com, you can subscribe to the newsletter. You get access to all those great pieces that Max is putting out. And as you can hear, it's not just stuff you're hearing on the show. It's anime, it's animation, it's video game conversation.
Oh,
There's like
I
all
talked
kinds of,
about what was it? Dungeon Crawler Carl, which had its
yeah,
eighth book just come out.
that's right, books. There's a lot of stuff that Max is talking about that kind of spans the pop culture spectrum. So not just movies. It's the pictures is more than just the movies. It's all that good stuff. So definitely subscribe to the newsletter. But Max, where can people find you on social media to follow you?
Yeah, on Blue Sky most of the time. You can look me up at maxcolville.com or just search my name, Max Colville. You can also follow me on Letterboxd. If I'm watching a movie, it's likely going to be logged there.
Hmm.
If you go on, I haven't watched a lot of movies lately. Been doing other things like gaming and watching TV, but hopefully I catch up to movies, Evan. I know like I look at what you've been watching, or at least in discussion with you. I'm like, you certainly are keeping up. I feel like I'm behind because you've seen all the big May releases thus far. Maybe not Sheep Detectives. Have you seen that one?
I did not see Sheep Detective, so that's one where I'm at a loss there. But yeah, I feel like I've spent an unusual amount of time lately at the theaters because there's been some things that I really wanted to see, so I came out of the woodwork to get to the movies. Nice. Well, you can follow me on social media. I'm on where am I these days? I mean, if you want to keep up with me, probably go to Letterboxd. That's where I'm probably the most active and actually updating. And I did actually post recently on like Threads, Blue Sky. So I'm like trying to like come out of like hiding on social media, but my handle on there is Real Recon. That's real as in film real. And then you can follow me every week over at Spoiler Piece Theater, the weekly film review podcast that I do with my co-host Dave Riedel, and we've been having a lot of fun there between the main show and our Patreon that we do. We're doing a poll right now on the Boston themed movies for the Patreon, so it'll be interesting to see what people select there.
Evan, we should point out if you have a specific comments or requests for us, you can email us at itsthepictures@gmail.com.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, send us an email. Let us know. Maybe, hey, what's your favorite Pedro Pascal role? Or did we leave out some interesting tidbit of Pedro Pascal trivia or something?
Is Attack of the Clones your favorite Star Wars movie?
Yeah, maybe you're one person who thinks that Mandalorian and Grogu sucks, and you're telling me I'm crazy for enjoying it. Love to hear from listeners. So definitely drop us a line. All right, I guess let's move to the what we've been watching section. Max, you had some things you wanted to talk about. There was a Kylie Minogue documentary, I think, and yeah, take it away. What have you been watching?
Yeah, so I just learned, I guess, like through social media that there was a new Kylie Minogue documentary. It's a three-part documentary that's available on Netflix now. I've been a fan of her music for a number of years, not necessarily when Locomotion hit big in the States.
Mm,
Probably when Can't Get You Out of My Head, which was like her second coming in America.
mm-hmm.
Did well here. I revisited some of her older tracks and really enjoyed the European pop music that she was creating, and been a fan ever since. But I think I turned on the documentary, like I said, it's three parts, so I've barely scratched the surface. I've watched like the first 40 minutes of it, and I was just like surprised at how much I didn't know about her
Mm.
career. So I'm was fascinated, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of it. And honestly, it just makes me want to listen to her music some more. I wonder like how much of that is going to be in the piece. I like they've played like her like first hit, I think, but
Mm.
we'll see.
Do you think they'll talk about her role in Street Fighter as Cammy? Do you think that'll come up?
I think it will. I mean, like, there's like there's 5 minutes in this what I've seen thus far, and she was said at the time, like when she was first coming out into the music scene in the early '90s, that a lot of people she was interviewing with was like, "Are you going to pick? Are you going to be an actress, or are you going to be a singer?" And she
Hmm.
felt like she didn't want to have to pick, that she
Yeah.
could do both, and so I think that at least like it will touch upon more of her acting roles because I think that she loved acting. I think as in addition to
Hmm.
singing.
Cool. I'm glad you're enjoying it so far. You have to let me know what you think when you end up watching the rest of it.
And the other thing I was watching is older television. I Evan's going to be talking about Widow's Bay in a little bit, which is something I was trying to catch up with, but didn't really get to it. But I've been watching the old IFC series documentary now, and probably when it came out, I didn't know enough about documentary to anywhere come close to enjoy it.
Hmm.
I was interested in watching it, and then I saw that there's actually like a commemorative book of documentary now that was coming out, and I was like, okay, I'll get this. It has like a foreword by a critic, Matt Zoller Zeiss, and it keeps up like the joke of the series because I don't know if you're familiar with it at all, Evan,
I'm not.
but the joke is I think it's like a Bill no, it's like a Fred Armisen, the Bill Hader kind of like co-collaboration. That
Hmm.
makes sense to me. And then what they do is they each episode is like 30 minutes, like kind of spoofing or playing or paying homage to famous documentaries.
Mm, okay.
And like one episode that I remember I'd seen before is one called like Co-op, which is based on the Company documentary, where they record the cast of Company recording the album, and it's a very stressful.
Like
Thing.
Company the musical, like
Yes, Company
the
the musical, yeah.
yeah. Okay, gotcha.
And so like they had to like create original music for the parody, and it was very
Okay, that
funny.
sounds really funny because I actually love the musical company, so
Yeah,
that
you
I
should
feel
check
like I
that
probably
out.
need to watch that.
And then like if you want to watch that, just get the Blu-ray or the DVD of the Criterion release of Company of that documentary because then it also includes the documentary now episode on it.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, and the other ones I just watched the other day, I guess they did a Jiro Dreams of Sushi kind of homage, and that was pretty funny. Instead of like sushi, it's like a guy who makes chicken and rice dishes all the time. And then the other one I watched was like based on Stop Making Sense, the Talking Heads
Hmm.
documentary.
Gotcha. Okay.
So yeah, I mean, like if you're familiar with some of those, I mean, like I think I'd also seen like the Grey Gardens one because that's pretty famous. But there's other documentaries, of course, in there like Thin Blue Line. I think they do My Octopus Teacher. I haven't seen that one yet.
I haven't seen that documentary, but I remember the gist of it.
Yeah, but no, I'm looking forward to like looking through the book and then trying to revisit some of those older episodes too.
Nice. Well, sounds fun.
And so, Evan, you've continued on your Apple TV Plus kick. I saw
Yeah.
that. I'm not surprised that I saw positive reviews for Maximum Pleasure Guaranteed because I had watched the first episode of that and enjoyed it quite a bit. And I know
Hmm.
you were telling me like you were really into it.
Yeah, I feel like I was only kind of vague when I talked about this a few weeks ago, just because I wasn't sure how much I was allowed to talk about. But now that the show is released, I feel like it's fair game. Yeah, I've watched the Tatiana Maslany show, Maximum Pleasure Guaranteed, on Apple TV, and I loved it. I could not put it down. I found it genuinely thrilling, and I watch a lot of thrillers in terms of like TV and movies, and so many of them are not particularly. This one that actually had me on the edge of my seat. It felt dangerous. It felt like there were real stakes involved, and I was just like all about it. And I basically was like parked in the Apple TV screeners app waiting for new episodes to drop because like literally just premiered, so it's only dropped like a couple of episodes. But like I actually have seen all 10 episodes, and I loved it. I think it ended on a great note. I, I mean, it definitely leaves room for a second season, so it'll be interesting to see if it gets that. But I hope that it does because I was all about it. I think it
Did
was like
you
an excellent TV show.
did you want to share what it's about with our audience?
Sure, yeah. So it's about Tatiana Maslany plays a divorced mother, and she's living in New York City, and she is spending some time with this cam guy, and she's getting intimacy that way. And what happens is she's camming with him, and he gets like beat up and abducted, and she's getting these like phone calls being like, if you don't like pay a ransom, we're gonna kill him. And she kind of realizes that there's more to the story and gets wrapped up in this crazy conspiracy. But it's this whole situation is like impacting her work life. It's dredging up stuff from her past. Her relationship with her ex, Jake Johnson. He's trying to fight her for custody so he can take their daughter and his like new girlfriend, wife, whoever, move cross country. So there's that, and yeah, there's a pretty scary group of people who are behind what's going on, and one of them is played by Murray Bartlett, who I think is really good. And I don't really know much more to say past that because I feel like then we're getting into spoiler territory. But yeah, it's thrilling. Like the music in it is excellent. The acting is superb. The storytelling, really well done. Well paced, kind of well drawn characters. And Jake Johnson plays an absolute d bag in it, quite effectively, I might add. But yeah, I was very very happy. I could not recommend it highly enough. So I'm glad that other people are finally get a chance to see it, and I hope that they're as into it as I am.
No, I think that's a good summary of the first episode at least, because I remember like turning it on and I didn't really have any idea of what I was getting into. Just that
Hmm.
you had said it was pretty good, and I wanted to give it a try. I was pleasantly surprised by the twists and turns it took.
Yeah, I should also mention that her job is she works for like a publication as a fact checker, and so that if you see stuff in the like promotional materials, like where she's circled in like red colored pencil, or there's like a graphic that looks like her head that's part of like a pencil shaving, those are kind of what they're referencing because I feel like that's not maybe immediately obvious from like the gist of the show. But yeah, her skills as a fact checker come in quite handy in terms of her ability to get to the bottom of what's going on and to kind of unwrap the kind of layers to what's happening. And I found that really, really fun. I like shows and movies about investigators who are not the typical, like, you know, police officer person investigating a crime or investigating a conspiracy. That to me is all really fun.
Yeah, and so if you could, if that's the thriller, do you consider Widow's Bay to be the horror, if you will, like because that is now like what 5 6 episodes in on Apple TV Plus,
Yes.
and it's been getting rave reviews.
Yes, yeah, I would say so. I started watching Widow's Bay. I was already interested because it's set New England, like islands in New England. It has Matthew Reeves, who I really like quite a bit from The Americans and other things I've seen him in. And yeah, I watched a trailer and I thought, okay, this actually seems pretty funny, and it's also like a horror themed show. I should check it out. And what I was really surprised by is very much a comedy, but it also very much horror. And I feel like that's a difficult needle to thread because so often horror comedies trend much more toward comedy than horror, and it's kind of hard to take the horror elements of them seriously. And the stuff I've seen so far in the show, I'm on episode 7 right now. I mean, literally was like watching it before we sat down to record. There's been some legitimately frightening things in the show that have like scared the crap out of me. So that speaks volumes. But yeah, in terms of plot summary, Matthew Reeves is the mayor of this New England island, Widow's Bay, which has kind of like a checkered past. But he's trying to, make it the kind of like next, you know, Nantucket or Martha's Vineyard, like a,
I've heard like he's kind of compared to like the mayor of Jaws, right? Is that like
yeah, he's similarly put upon. I mean, like there's definitely a lot of kind of like awkward, cringy moments where it's like he's kind of like bumbling, and not because he's like dumb or anything, but just because it's like everyone on the island is just giving him such a freaking hard time, and like there's all this like weird, creepy shit that starts happening when he's just like trying to get through the day. Like he has this son who's like just always like sneaking out and like doing shit that is not supposed to, and like that's also like he's worrying about his son, but then also like trying to balance a million different, balls in the air, and it's like of course some things are gonna drop. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it so far. The first episode, I'll admit, was a little hard to adjust to the dynamic because there's a lot of cringe comedy moments. So I feel like if you can kind of get over that hump, it's very worthwhile, and I'm so excited to see where it goes in the next couple of episodes because it's like things are like really heating up in terms of like the kind of backstory of this island that's just like dating back like hundreds of years because of course it's New England, right?
Right. No, I'm interested in this like small town kind of mystery, and the knee jerk reaction to anything like this is to say like how does it measure up to Twin Peaks? And I don't know. I haven't watched enough to say like if that's its intention or if it has anything to do with like the kind of wholesomeness that Twin Peaks had of its horror. But either way, I'm interested in checking this one out too, and it just continues our discussion about how Apple TV has the goods, right? It's just like
Yeah,
if
they
if
really
you
do.
if you thought like subscribing was like a hassle and maybe they don't have enough, like there's enough there, like
Yeah, and they're investing in their shows. Like, you can watch like another show I didn't even mention I'm watching is Criminal Record. And like I'm watching the first season of that, but there's already a second season that just came out. And it's like the morning show has like 4 seasons. So it's like the shows they do have, they're investing a lot of money into this like silo, like 2C. Like there's not a lot of stuff where you're just like one and done like Netflix where they'll like make a season of a show and then cancel it.
For All Mankind has 5 seasons and now it's gonna have a spin-off Star City, so it's just like
Yeah, there's a lot of really great storytelling on Apple TV, and probably think I'm getting paid by them to say this. I talk about their show so much, but I legitimately love everything they have going on there, and I'm always excited. Like I'm excited to watch the new Cape Fear TV show that's coming out with Javier Bardem and Amy Adams and Patrick Wilson. Like that looks really good. That's probably the next thing I'm gonna dig into.
yeah.
So yeah, Widow's Bay definitely is channeling Stephen King for not only from like the title cards, which feel very like reminiscent of like Stephen King. There's definitely Stephen King books that have made like kind of background appearances, like The Shining and It on bookshelves and whatnot. But yeah, I'm digging it. I hope you watch some more of it, Max, and I hope you like it, and also hope you watch more Maximum Pleasure, guaranteed, if you have if you get the chance.
Yeah, I think like are most of these shows like half an hour episodes, or are they like it depends
You
what
know
you're
what?
watching.
It depends. And you know what? I actually respect this a lot about them. They don't feel like they're trying to hit arbitrary like numbers where there's like, okay, every episode needs to be 45 minutes or every episode needs to be an hour. I respect that a lot of times the shows on this platform are highly variable. Like I could watch like a 58-minute episode of something and the next episode's like 37 minutes. Like I feel like they let the storytelling like dictate the length of the episode and rather than trying to be like I have to hit a specific like target.
Yeah, like I feel like I didn't watch it all the way through, but like I've read like 6 Murderbot novels, and
Mhm.
I'm like that one is probably one that I should revisit, and like I think that one is very variable too, if I remember.
Mhm. Yeah, it seems to be pretty much throughout the platform and the shows they let the storytelling. And I respect that a lot because it's like why do you feel like you need to add filler to episodes? To pad out stuff when it just feels sometimes just like you could have told it in much shorter.
Cool.
But yeah, I think that wraps up this wraps up our episode. We hope you enjoyed our conversation on Pedro Pascal and the items we've been watching. Hope you check out some of these things, and if you do, definitely send us an email. I'd love to hear from you. And yeah, we'll be back at you in a couple weeks with our next episode. So we will see you then.